Alright guys, it's a pretty hot day in Pennsylvania. We're in the 80s, but humidity's pretty high. Everybody wants their AC to work. When I first put the gauges on, the request light's coming on the dashboard, everything's coming on, but it was getting 90 pounds on the high and the low side. They're almost identical. The compressor would not cycle. I checked the compressor. I used the power probe just going into the single wire that goes to it, and the clutches didn't engage. I checked there's a pressure transducer in the back, and it's some cars have a high and a low. That got 3 pressure ranges on one transducer, and it runs off at 12 volts. So, and it costs $11 on Rock Auto. That's not the problem, but I mean that's a pretty good price for 3-range transducer. You could run off a battery voltage and use in cylinder or any kind of project you're going to use one for. But everything else seemed to be there. So I checked the relay. I got the diagram in the last part of this video, but that was the only thing I was missing. The fan worked good, everything worked good. Now I still don't even know why it worked like that. The only thing I could think of, some kind of vapor lock inside, because this is the first hot weather we've had where you really needed the AC. I didn't know if this thing locked a little bit, just wouldn't pump, wouldn't cycle, but even adding Freon, it just wouldn't take it. Or 134A, sorry. But, still can't explain the hows and the whys, but that's, it was a pressure switch. I don't know if it did, or a thermal protection switch. I don't know if something from having hot gases in it, set it off, and then it just kind of needed jump started. Either that, or hey, like I said, maybe it's doing its job and it really is going to throw it again. But time will tell, and I will update. But at least somebody's cool for Memorial Day. Have a good one. All right, here's the wire I was talking about. It just goes alongside the compressor. You could just follow it up. Pretty sure it wouldn't be Mazda specific. It would be the coils on just about any AC unit. But there's a plug right above it. What I did was I unplugged that, and then I spun it first just to make sure. I gave it 12 volts just to make sure that the clutch was engaging, and it was fine. And I checked continuity between that wire and the case, anywhere on the case of the compressor, and I was getting a reading. It wasn't open, so everything checked out on it. And like I mentioned before, made sure everything was right on the relay, made sure I was getting, this was the only signal I was missing. And then whenever I had the gauges hooked up, because it wouldn't engage the compressor even through the scan tool, but whenever I gave it 12 volts while it was running, the compressor sucked up Freon, and then it almost instantly started cycling itself. The battery voltage that I was giving it, whenever I let go, it already had the battery voltage on it. I wasn't supplying it, so it was the relay was then giving it the power. Because up here, even checking from the computer wire, the computer was trying to, it's the black and yellow wire on this vehicle, but the computer did have a ground. It was a pretty good ground. Used like a 2 amp light bulb on it. But in the relay, the relay was like this, but only the outer 2 terminals. And I was getting power to 3 of them, but nothing would activate the outer left one. That's the one that went down to the compressor. But once I gave it power, it grounded it up, clicks, works, cycles. Whenever I first, it was almost empty, but I got it up to, I'm just going off, this isn't the factory data, but this is, I was at 35, so I was a little bit low, but that's after just a can and a half. That's all I had. And then the high side pressure range, I was at 200, so I was able to get it up. And I mean, I'll update if it loses any pressure, but it just seemed like you had to catch the compressor in gear for the one switch Let me show you why I got it here. This is the relay. Now this wire comes from the computer. This wire comes over from the fuse. I was getting ground here and I was getting power there. And this comes in from the magnetic fuse for the coil. I was getting power there, but I was not getting anything from the thermal protector. So I don't know if it was just, you know, stuck on ground. I don't know, that it might be doing its job if it's protecting it, but it seemed like as soon as I clicked that, I cycled it numerous times. I mean, it's blowing great AC now. But that was the one I was missing. I wouldn't go poking and prodding around in there sending power where you shouldn't, but you know, at that point, whenever I had it isolated and I seen that the clutches worked, you know, I figure, yeah, you're not losing nothing at that point anyway, because there was nothing else on the circuit. But with it running and the gauges hooked up, whenever I activated that one time, it just took over. Now every time I start it, it still has. It's a little bit loud, but she's heard a lot louder. It still functions, but you know, it's Memorial Day weekend. It's about 85 degrees. And this thing's blowing 13-degree air inside the garage, so happy Memorial Day. If this helps one person stay cool this weekend, all right. Have a good one, guys. Adios.